Faster than a speeding bullet.
I ran until my muscles burned and my veins pumped battery acid.
More powerful than a locomotive.
An idea is like a virus. Resilient. Highly contagious.
Able to leap tall buildings in a single bound.
What's up, ladies and gentlemen? Jerred Moon here from the Betterhumanology podcast, a podcast aimed at one thing, and that is making you a better human. Whether we are talking to experts, interviewing them, pushing ourselves in new physical events or feats, or even doing some simple experiments you can do at home, all in the aim to make you a better human. So welcome to the show. Glad that you guys are here. We actually have an interview today. Our interview is all about paleo, or as our guest would call it, helping you keep it paleo. We have Nick Massey from PaleoNick.com. I'm a huge fan of his work. He has a lot of good information to give, and today he talks to us about the paleo diet, how to fit it in, maybe some ways you could try to transition if you're not fully paleo and maybe you're thinking about it. Either way, Nick is a great guy. He's full of great information, and today we are talking paleo. So stick around for this interview. Great to have you on the show, Nick, and I got to get started with just the background. I got to know who you are a little bit. So could you tell me your background and what you're up to now, what you're doing on a daily basis?
Okay. Yeah, thanks for having me on the show. It's kind of a loaded question because, on a daily basis, my schedule changes quite a bit. No day, no 2 days look alike. But maybe I'll start with my background, and then we can come back to that daily basis question. So I started off. I grew up on the border towns of Fargo, North Dakota, Moorhead, Minnesota. Played hockey growing up. Didn't really work out much. Got a job washing dishes when I was 14, and then worked all through high school in a restaurant where I was running the kitchen by the time I had graduated. Decided to go to culinary school, and then kind of spent the next, these past 15 years between Alaska, Colorado, Minnesota, and California, going to school and cooking in various capacities. In 2008, I was introduced to CrossFit and just fell in love with it instantly. So I'm coming up on 7 years here. It'll be October 30th. And I think my first workout was Angie.
Oh, nice.
Which is it's kind of funny. Not having worked out for years, going right into that. Definitely was a shock to my system, and I wanted more of it, and haven't looked back.
That's all. So you've been in, the culinary world, I guess I'll call it, since you were 14, you said?
Yeah.
Wow.
About 20 years, over 20 years now. I'm 34.
Wow, that's really awesome. So truly a passion of yours. And so when did the paleo thing come about? And was that spurred by CrossFit?
That really came about right about the same time that I started. I was working out in my neighbor's garage with him, and just kind of saw the workouts at first as a big change, and then I noticed how he would eat. He was always munching on broccoli, and we called it kind of like rabbit food. I just knew that he knew something that I didn't, and he was basically doing the zone diet, which was, was promoted by CrossFit, and so he was eating paleo foods in zone portions, and I just started kind of looking into that, reading some books, and started, adapting my cooking style to that. The people who I was cooking for weren't necessarily paleo, but a lot of them were kind of like these upper class people in Aspen, and they wanted low carb and high quality proteins and those kinds of things. So it was pretty easy to make that transition both for myself and for the people I was cooking for.
Okay, so kind of a natural transition through fitness, which I think is how a lot of people get into paleo. When did you specifically become Paleo Nick? When did that happen?
That happened, I guess, officially in like 2011, I would say. I had, I'd done some videos for CrossFit.com where we, did some cooking, and then there was a kind of a demand for more of that. So I started, producing videos on my own and launched a website, and was at the point where I would just get anybody who I could find to shoot me cooking, and then I would edit the videos and add the music, and you can kind of see evidence of that in my early on stuff on my site. And now we've evolved to where I have a producer who's, highly skilled, and we kind of made a mock studio in my garage, and now we're going to the next level where we're actually going to build like a legitimate professional, studio.
Oh, wow. That's awesome. And I'll say, because we talked about this before we started recording, but just so all the listeners know that I'm a culinary ninja, if you will. I am a subscriber to the Paleo Nick website, a huge advocate of it because, like I was saying earlier, your videos are very helpful for a guy who doesn't really, like you could probably be doing the most simple recipe on your website, and I would still be lost if there wasn't some sort of video or instruction there. So I really love the stuff that you're putting out there. It's really helped me with meal prep and getting a lot done for the week and everything.
Good to hear.
What was that?
No, it's good to hear. I mean, that's kind of what it's all about.
Yeah, dude. And I want
a lot of times
go ahead.
When I'm on one side of the computer, you don't always see what's happening on the other side. So it's good to hear that, and then when people post pictures on Instagram or Facebook, it's really satisfying for me to see the kind of the fruits of my labor. So thanks for being a subscriber and sharing your story.
Dude, and what's even better, I have a 3-year-old and a 1-year-old, getting them to eat paleo, it can be a challenge at times, depending on what it was. But once I introduced them to your, 3-pepper chili?
Yeah.
Dude, my kids are hooked on that stuff. They love it. And so I'm a huge fan of that. Try to make as much of that as I can. But I don't want to go too far. One thing I brought up was the Culinary Ninja, culinary fitness concept. So I'd love to talk to you about that. Maybe you can explain a little bit more about what culinary fitness is to you.
Okay. Yeah. It has a lot of different meanings. The basis of it is becoming, fit through food, if you will, using your culinary skills to help you, outside of the gym and fueling your, what you do inside the gym. And then the other side of it is just being like a culinary ninja. Like when you're in the kitchen, you're also fit in the culinary world. Like you know how to set up for success and do things efficiently, and you have good knife skills, and you keep things pretty organized, and you plan out your week, and you have the paleo bank account and all that stuff. So it's got a kind of a double meaning there, but that's really what it is.
Yeah, and I think, and one thing I love is this isn't coming from a guy who, just went to culinary school and, knows how to make a paleo recipe. You were actually, a pretty high-level athlete. I was looking at some of the numbers on your website, and those are no joke. So you practice what you preach, and you walk the walk. So what have you seen? Because I'm guessing maybe you said you started paleo around when you started CrossFit, but have you noticed any performance gains or differences with your diet based upon your training?
Yeah, good question. That is, I definitely have. I mean, I guess the fittest I probably have been was probably 2011. I was like a regionals athlete that year. I was also on a regional team in 13, but back in 11, like that was when I was still just getting started and learning about it, and I was just dedicated 100% to Paleo Zone. I also owned a CrossFit gym, so I was there a lot and worked out a lot, and the two things just go hand in hand in every aspect. Where if you work out hard, you're encouraged to eat well, and if you eat well, you're encouraged to work out hard. If you stick with Paleo Zone from a performance standpoint, or if your goal is to lean out, then there's no better system that I've found. You know, I mean, we have all these kind of fringe diets, like, you know, ketogenic or, you know, intermittent fasting, or, you know, there's a lot of them out there. Things that I've toyed around with, but just for the long haul, day in and day out, for kind of the rest of your life, I think Paleo Zone is what works for me, and it works for the people I've guided through it, as long as they follow it.
And how do you feel about, say, a cheat day for people who are maybe rather new to paleo? Do you think that people just need to go full force paleo if they made that decision, or should you cheat occasionally if you're starting out?
Yeah, I mean, I really think it depends on the person. Like, for me personally, I could eat 2 bags of Oreos without thinking twice.
Yeah.
You know, so I have to be really careful about that. For the past pretty much 4 months, I haven't focused on my diet or training, just because we just did the CrossFit Games, and the amount of time and energy it took to do that, just kind of, I put my diet and training on the back burner, where, you know, I'm still learning. It would have been ideal to while going through all the stress, to have that up front and making sure I was eating properly and training, but it just didn't happen. So maybe next year when we go through it, I'll do better. But coming back to your question, right now I'm on my 12th day where I haven't had any grains, not one tortilla chip, no sugar, strict paleo. And then on Sunday here, I'll switch it up where I'll start zoning. So I'll do paleo, strict paleo and zone portions, kind of as a ramp up to get me back on track.
Yeah, isn't it funny? I know a lot of guys who have their own fitness businesses or something similar to what you have set up, and sometimes the work can get so crazy it can take you away from why you started the business in the first place. And
right.
That's it's a necessary evil, I think, at times. You just have to work hard. So are you saying that maybe if you were sticking to your diet during those tough times, it would have helped you out more performance-wise?
Yeah, I think so. Like, mentally, sleep's not an issue, because I was only sleeping, 4 hours or less a night for a while. But just all around, dude, mental clarity, food is medicine, and the foundation of everything we do. So paying attention to it helps. And that's really where, I think that the ultimate goal is to endure the stress while staying on track with diet and training, not using it as an excuse.
I like that. And here's a question for you. I'm a gadget guy. I like what gadgets, tools, whatever you want to call it, utensils. What's something that you could recommend, like one kitchen, I don't know, appliance or tool or something that you can't live without? It's like where you need to start if you're going to get serious about cooking before you start buying other stuff. Like, and maybe that's too vague, but if that makes sense to you, maybe if that clicks from your experience, I'd love to hear it.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I guess the first thing is just a quality cutting board and chef knife is the first step. And by quality, I don't mean you have to spend $300 on like a Japanese go-to, but something you could get for $10 or less at a restaurant store would be your knife. And then same thing with the cutting board, a nice size poly cutting board that's about a ½ inch thick, white, and again around $8 or $9. That's a good start. And then from there, the first equipment I would get is a food processor.
Okay.
Food processor.
And
that'll help to do all kinds of stuff, from shredding to mincing large amounts of garlic, to making mayo, pureeing sauces and purees and all kinds of stuff.
So that's how you do the garlic. I was always wondering when I was watching those videos how you did it so well. It's the food processor. Got it.
Yeah. Well, I have there is an article there called Garlic 3 Ways, and I show kind of how to do it by hand, is to do a large prep session and use the food processor. But you don't really want to mince a bunch of garlic that's going to sit in the fridge for a week. Keep it as fresh as possible.
Right.
But I usually do large prep sessions, so then I'll rely on that. So I'm not chopping garlic for a half hour.
Okay, and I think that pretty much covers the paleo side of things before I hop into the quickfire questions. But I do want to leave this portion of the interview with, if you could just give some practical advice to anyone who's thinking about going paleo, a good starting point for them.
Okay. I think the best starting point is to read books. There's a lot of information, I guess, websites and whatnot you can read also. But for me, to read the Paleo Diet, that's where I started to read the Zone, a book called Enter the Zone, and then a book called Why We Get Fat and What to Do About It by Gary Taubes.
Yeah, that's a good one.
3 books would be, provide you with the information or the motivation you need to get going. And then once you get to the grocery store, just go to the produce section, go to the meat section, where you grab some nuts in the middle and check out.
You're done. Perfect.
It's pretty easy.
Well, I really appreciate that, Nick. Now we're going to head over to the quick-fire questions. So I'm going to throw a question out to you. You can give a one-word response, explain your answer, up to you. Are you ready?
Yep.
Okay, what's the hardest workout you've ever done?
Hardest workout, I would say probably 2010, 9 maybe. The first time the main site posted 21:15:9 of overhead squats at 135 and deadlifts at 225.
Okay.
I think that was probably it. Me and my buddy John did it and barely couldn't even put our weights away when we were done. I think it was probably included some workouts we had done prior or the day before that made it extra hard, but that was a tough one.
Yeah, that one sounds pretty rough. All right, man. In your opinion, what's the best activity for building mental toughness?
Ooh, mental toughness. I think running up a hill is a pretty good one.
Yeah.
And then reading books. Man. Learning, listening to the stories of other guys. Reading the book called The Boys in the Boat right now, called Rowing. And I'd say we could probably include rowing in there. Running up a hill and rowing.
So are you a pretty big reader?
I do like to read, yep.
Okay. Are you audiobook guy or are you book guy?
No, I'm hold paper in my hand and turn the pages kind of guy. Not on an iPad, none of that stuff. Just a good old-fashioned book.
Okay, cool. All right. If you could only have one piece of equipment to train with for the rest of your life, what would it be?
I would say, I'd have to choose a barbell would be number one, I guess. That was it, a barbell and a set of weights. If I could have one more, I could probably make a pull-up bar with the barbell. So pull-up bar and barbell.
Okay, perfect. All right, man, so we move on to the most important question of the show, and it is, what is your best advice you have for becoming a better human? 100% open-ended.
Okay. Better human. I think it mainly has to do with other people. And I could use an example from this book I'm reading. This guy, Joe Rance, is having trouble fitting into a boat on this Washington. They have 5 boats, and they're trying to send one of them to the Olympics in Berlin in 1936. And he definitely has the skill to to make it, right, to be in the best boat. But what he's doing is in every boat, he's trying to row that boat by himself. And the advice he gets from this guy named George Pocock is to not try to row the thing down the river by himself, but to work with the other men in the boat. And only when he learns to do that do they find the fastest boat and the one that eventually makes it to the Olympics. So in business or life, they say a man is only as good as his support staff. And however you want to look at that, it could be the team you work with at work or your buddies you work out with in the gym. But working with other people, going through life together, and learning not to be the star of the show, but to bringing others around you up to a higher level than they are.
Dude,
That's how to keep life.
I love that answer too, because it just works on so many levels. Can you say the name of that book one more time?
It's called The Boys in the Boat.
Okay.
It's on the New York Times bestseller list for a while now, and it was just given to me by a friend, and I can't put it down. It's a great book.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to crack into that one this afternoon. All right, man.
Yeah.
That's pretty much it for our podcast, but I do want to give you one chance right now. What's the best place for people to learn more about you and what you're doing?
Okay. Yeah, the website is really the hub. It's been a little quiet during post because we just did the CrossFit Games, but it's paleonick.com. If you want to see what my life is like on a daily basis, Instagram's the best spot. I try to post a couple, maybe 1 or 2 pictures a day. My life is crazy, but I have fun in the process. And also mentioned we just launched our Ice Age meals. We're now shipping nationwide, and they're all paleo foods in zone portions. They're 4 blocks each. You can email us info@paleonick.com for information on that. We can ship them right to your doorstep. So, website, Instagram are the 2 best spots.
Cool, and I'll second that. Go to paleonick.com. Sign up if you haven't already. I know I'm a user, and I love it. So, Nick, that concludes the interview, man. I really appreciate you taking the time to be on the Better Humanology podcast, man.
All right. Yeah, thanks a lot. I appreciate you having me, and look forward to talking again sometime.
Your best. Losers always whine about their best.